Great song, very unusual chord progressions. They were doing strange things with chords, and everybody was going for like much more straight-ahead chords progressions, you know. It also had an element of jazz in it, which was a bit of a dangerous thing to do in those days. I mean, it could almost have blown them off course by having those kind of jazzy progressions. I mean, I remember thinking, will people get this? You know, does this fit? Will he get on the radio? I mean, that was the big concern, was would he get on the radio? And then if he got on the radio, would people actually think, what a peculiar record? And because it just didn't fit in with anything else around at the time.
I mean, it all happened very quickly. It got a lot of media attention. One of the things that really pushed it, we had a program here called Jukebox Jury, and it was at a time when the Beatles were just so successful, and George Harrison was on the panel, and he gave it a very good plug. And that more, I think that it would be a hit if George Harrison said it was good. It would almost certainly be a hit, so that was good.
I think it was generally worldwide hit. I only can remember the clear chart positions in England and America, but we were too busy working to keep an eye on things then.
I can remember being in the recording studio in West Hampstead, Decca Recording Studios, when we were told that She's Not There had gone to #1 in America. And yes, I can remember the excitement and the euphoria then, that day.
The timing was just so fantastically lucky. I mean, in America, the Beatles had just crashed, you know, the doors open, crashed the doors of America for English artists, really. And there we were, right behind. And I mean, I remember being over there and phoning home. And my mother said, "You've just been on the 9 o'clock news." And I said, "Really? Why?" "You're the first English band since the Beatles to get a #1 in America with something you've written yourself."
There, thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh no.
Sorry, Artie.
And here the original snare that I used on She's Not There back in the 60s, where we recorded at Decca. I like to think that I provided the unusual drum beat at the beginning and the middle of the song, and I think it added to the song and made it very distinctive at the time, something nobody else was doing.
Well, no one told me about her. What could I do?
Well, no one told me about the way of you, but it's too late to say you're sorry.
Their image was a little weird. I mean, first of all, they looked pretty straight. I mean, they used to always wear black. What am I talking about? I'm wearing black and white. They used to wear all black and white stuff, right? But they had these guys with these big horn-rimmed glasses, which wasn't really very cool. You know, you were supposed to sort of, you weren't supposed to have horn-rimmed glasses in a B group, so that was kind of weird anyway. And they looked. Well, you've only got to look at the old photographs. I mean, they were a bit strange looking and a bit straight.
I think we suffered in this country from our first press release, and it was, I remember sitting, you know, in the Decca offices, and the press officer said, okay, we've got to find an angle for this, you know. Now, what can we say? He said, oh, and he picked up on the fact that we just left school and we got a lot of O-levels. And he said, well, yeah, that's unusual. He said, okay, I'll put that in the press release. And it was pathetic. Manfred Mann was around at the time. They'd all been to university. Mick Jagger was a student at the, you know, London School of Economics. I mean, it was no big deal, but for some reason they picked this up.
And unfortunately, that's your first impression on the press tends to stick with you. It follows you around. And I think a lot of people kind of resented that. They sort of thought, well, what's that got to do with anything? And I think it was a little unfortunate. And coupled with that, two of the guys in the band wore really thick spectacles. Later on, Paul Atkinson, our guitarist, wore contacts. And he's a really good-looking guy. And I think if we could have started off, forget the school exams, and perhaps with Paul not in spectacles, so we didn't look like professors, I think it would have, image-wise, would have been a lot better.
In fact, I remember the show where Con was singing at the front, way out in front of everybody else, and they had all these terrible sort of dancing girls doing all this stuff around him. All this sort of awful stuff. And I remember thinking, they look like Acklands, surrounded by dolly birds.
What is the downside of having a big #1 hit?
Well, when your second record isn't so big, and when the third one doesn't happen at all, then you find out a few home truths about yourself. You find out what you're made of. You know, I think you have to take success when and where it happens and be grateful that you get it. But if you could choose it, I think it's best that it doesn't happen too quickly, because you need to learn a few things about the business and about travelling and how to look after yourself.